I think we glossed over like the performance stuff is great. The additions to Nvidia Studio is great. I think we glossed over the one thing that is potentially going to be the thing that sells it to streamers, and I think that would be the dual AV1 encoders. We have a brand. This is the first time in 3 card generations that they've updated NVINC again, right?
2, I guess, because they updated it for 20 series. So I'm actually gonna pull up the article here. So actually, that's not the right one. All right, that's fine. This is an extra feature. We'll talk about this in a minute. So this is 8th gen NVINC, which people are trying to interpret with regards to H.264. I've asked, there is no direct change to the base H.264 encoder. However, there is dual encoders now. Now, the 10 series cards, the Pascal cards, 1080, had dual encoder chips. You couldn't do anything special with them, but it allowed you more encoding capacity with regards to like multiple streams running at the same time compared to the 20 series. Like that was almost a downgrade, but you traded that downgrade for the quality bump. Now they have dual encoder chips again, but you can actually use them as in the driver. It will, now this has to be a software enabled feature. So like Topaz Labs is getting support, OBS is getting support this fall, and they'll work with Blackmagic and Adobe and whatever to implement it. But it will literally cut the frame in half, encode the separate halves on the separate chips, which theoretically means better quality too, theoretically, and then split them back together, almost like SLI for video encoding. This is very similar to Intel's HyperEncode, where that one will take the dedicated GPU and the iGPU and just encode alternate frames to split it together. Instead of doing alternate frames, it splits the frame in half and encodes half the frame and does it. This is really freaking cool. And a while, theoretically, like I said, could improve quality for H.264. I don't think it will. But what it does allow for is 8K 60 encoding now, and they have AV1, and the dual encoders applies to AV1 as well. They are claiming
very quick to show it off too.
Yeah.
The
YouTube video doesn't show much because it's a YouTube video. You can't. I mean, you can get some points. Like they show the foliage in Fortnite, and it's a lot clearer.
The freeze frames is where you can really pick it up. But
here,
like,
I can pull that up real quick.
It's fairly substantial. Like I would, if you want to like dumb it down and compare it to something else, this you could say like streaming with AV1 on Twitch with the same bitrate and frame rate and resolution is like the equivalent of going to 4K.
Yeah.
Like it's, I mean, look, even scrunched down in this scene, you can clearly tell that this looks significantly better.
Yeah. It's not going to be the same. I mean, just like with Intel's, it's not going to be the same quality as the software encoders on the super slow presets. I do think the dual encoders will allow them to implement more presets that allow it to go slower. Because like right now, something I'm very excited for is NVINC H.264, even on current gen cards, has a preset that competes with X264 slow. It's called P7, but you can't run it in real time at most resolutions. And so it's not useful. I'm hoping the dual encoders fixes that. But the fact that they implemented that at all makes me excited that for the AV1 stuff, they'll maybe implement it for like VOD stuff at least, to where you can squeeze out that crazy quality.
But with that said, though, you had a great point on Twitter. You can get access to this without spending $1,600.
Yes. So if you have been waiting, like a lot of the people that I've seen talking about it have just been waiting to upgrade to 40 series for AV1. If you're outraged by the prices or you just don't want to spend $900 to $1,600, you can throw in an Intel A380 for $200 and use it as a dual GPU. I've been using it as dual GPU for the past, I guess it's been 2 months since my coverage came out, maybe longer, since my first video came out. I've had a couple minor issues with the drivers, and I think some of it is to blame on my Windows install because it has other issues where like a couple times it has just restarted when I was doing nothing. Never when I was doing work, only when I was doing nothing, but it will just like hard reset because the drivers freaked out or something. But otherwise, I do my video editing on my 3090 and then encode the video to AV1 on my A380, and I've had no issues. And you can stream that way too once OBS implements the features coming.
Soon, I think.
Yeah.
I saw a Git update pretty recently.
Yeah, I did do a test stream for my Midjourney stream before we started Jam Packed using QuickSync on the card, And at the time, the OBS QuickSync implementation wasn't built for the DGPUs, so it was like, well, I don't know what hardware this is, and so it defaulted to the 16 by 10 mode. That's why it was all stretched. But the devs, I'm pretty sure in 28 implemented a bug fix for that temporarily, and then AV1 encoding is coming. So if you don't want to pay $1,600 but you want the higher quality encoder, that is the value I've been preaching the whole time about the Intel GPUs, and they're pretty rad in that regard, and so you can get that. There is one feature, though, that they implemented for AV1 on the Nvidia GPUs that did not get talked about anywhere on the press side of things, but there's an Nvidia developer blog about it. They implemented the DLSS frame rate interpolation for video encoding. And actually, I said for AV1, this applies to everything. You can use it on current GPUs. They're calling it FRUC. Frame rate up conversion, I think. I don't know that they even actually find it. But literally, it's the same idea of... There's a demo here. Well, that's not the right one. This one. So they convert the video into motion vectors as if it's a gameplay and analyze where the movement is.
Huh.
Find the gaps in it, use the AI to fill the gaps, and then you get new frames. And they can do it much faster, I think, than flow frames can. And theoretically, it looks like it might be a little more accurate than it might be, but I'm not sure.
What the fruit?
Yeah, what the fruit. So this is really cool. Like I said, it'll apply. It seems to just be a new library that applies to all encoders, because I did get confirmation that anyone, like any of the RTX cards, will be able to play with it. It'll just run significantly faster on... Oh yeah, frame rate up conversion. I was right. Okay, it'll run significantly faster on the new ones. But that is pretty interesting. What I am curious with, and I don't know how it would work because of the software, but theoretically you could use that to fix frame rate problems when you're streaming. If someone builds the right implementation in OBS and it's like,
oh, I'm dropping frames. Oh, Fruit took care of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, or if you're running a game with, like, you know, people, like I had someone in comments recently being like, hey, or actually I think it was Twitter, I run Red Dead, I can only run it at 80 FPS, I don't want to run it at 60, but I'm getting frame stutters in my game. You can use that to potentially smooth out those issues. Those kinds of things. The potential there is huge. Again, it requires... The problem with everything NVIDIA comes up with for the past 6 years now has been, this is an amazing feature. Who's going to implement it? And so, waiting for that. But the feature is really, really cool. And we saw with the NVIDIA background removal VST that, like, someone implemented it, and then Elgato made their own version because they found a way to do it more smoothly for their software and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. And then a couple updates that come to all NVIDIA stuff with the broadcast background removal. They now have temporal sampling, so it will sample over time. So if, like, something randomly moves in the background, it theoretically won't just flash in and out again. It'll just be filtered out, which should be pretty cool. They're doing a face expression
updates.
Yeah, a face expression estimation, which will, like, analyze your face and help convert it better for VTube stuff, which is pretty cool if you don't want an iPhone strapped to your face. And then they have the weird eye contact thing for that they're now marketing at podcasts instead of just video conferencing, which, again, someone has to implement and develop, but I think will just be weird Uncanny Valley stuff. Hey, I work in VFX. We have this tech, but it takes minutes to render a frame, not milliseconds. This is amazing. Exactly.